Well, Lee, when we met previously, you said about the importance of having regular interviews to discuss the business side of the football club and not just wait until there's a problem before we discuss the business side of the football club. We met 2.5 months ago and it got a very good reaction from the QPR fans. You feel it's important to keep this going?
Absolutely. I tend to do these periodically anyway. I'm sure different questions will come up as it pops up through the year. The business of football is fairly complex anyway in terms of the various areas that you have to deal with. So it'll probably go on for years in order to fully explain and give a bit of transparency. I think it's very important that people understand why we're making the decisions that we're making. So yeah, and I'm glad to hear it was well received as well.
And it seems that, like you say, different issues, different questions arise already. And looking back now on the pre-season campaign, the trip to the Netherlands, obviously there were issues there, particularly with regards to the PSV fixture, and it's something that you were keen to address, although you did address it at the time.
Yeah, addressed it. I think the explanations for why that happened are probably well known by now. What's probably overdue is there was a gentleman, Mr. Sutton, who wrote to me and did ask for a detailed response. That one is long overdue because I did actually, believe it or not, he did request specifically to address the points. I actually did address the points, although I was on holiday at the time because it was done. And in fact, I've still got the notes for it. All 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages of notes for it. Unfortunately, I lost the whole thing before I sent it. But I look back now and as I can remember when I was doing this, thinking I knew that Juris Doctor degree would come in handy one day, as I addressed the legal points and just looking through here now about some of the things we talked about, illusory promises and the law of tort, which I'm presuming you have in England as well, which is the law of reparation for harm done by wrongful act. Here's a great thing on proximate cause. And I'm actually quite glad I lost it, if I'm honest with you, because if I would have sent this out and it would have been published, and I knew it was going to be published, it just would have came across as so officious and legalistic. And that's actually not my style. Prefer to address things in person, prefer to do things like, if I were a fan, how would I feel? And I think in that, we know what happened. A licensing authority revoked the license. Happened to us, happened to Southampton, happened to West Brom. It happened. Now, the guess from amongst the clubs, because we do all talk to each other, is we think the licensing authorities got spooked about what happened in France during the European Championships, with the issues that happened with English supporters and Russian supporters. Everybody's got their view of who was really at fault there, but they got spooked for whatever reason, and it happened. But the one thing I do need to hasten is there's a big difference between responsibility and sympathy. And I'm doing this from a sympathy standpoint. Now, I know the supporters will say, well, no, you should have foreseen that. The stadium wasn't good enough. Yeah, the stadium was plenty good enough for the purposes that we had. I think sometimes English supporters have, there's a heightened expectation about what the club itself is to have responsibility for. And one of my favorite stories is a few years ago, I went to see my team play in the Super Bowl. I was quite lucky. Baltimore Ravens were playing San Francisco in New Orleans, famous for its trams and streetcars and things. And as we were crossing the road, all the fans were heading up to the stadium. One guy who had had a few too many decided to stand there in front of the tram, and so it couldn't move. And the rest of the fans all parted. One guy, and they're all yelling for him to move, and finally some girl yells out, "Don't be a jerk." She didn't actually say jerk. It was a bit stronger than that, but we'll translate it in case this is aired during the family hour. And he moved. And I started laughing, and my wife said, "What are you laughing at?" I said, "Because if we were back in England, 20% of the fans would have been going, oh, well, he really shouldn't do that. So, you should move and blah. 25% of the fans would be actually egging him on, and 55% of the remaining fans would be going, oh, the club need to sort this out, because the club is responsible. There are things, believe me, we'll get enough wrong that we should take responsibility for, and we need to. But when a licensing authority revokes your permission to play, there's nothing you can do about it. When we talk about foreseeability, I'd say probably 2 years' time, if we, World Cup's going to be in Russia. I have no idea what's going to happen at that particular time. is that going to lead to instances like we have now? We just need to be aware of that. We'll do what we can. And, I went out there, I addressed it personally with as many people as I could. We've done some things. There are still some other things I'd like to do during the course of the season for people. I think we got a pretty good grasp of who was actually affected out there. And, I will keep in dialogue with those people. We just need to get the season up and running right now. But, I have absolute sympathy with the fans that went out there. I've treated it as I would want to be treated. And, if we can learn points from it, great, we'll learn points from it. But there was no way I could have predicted that the licensing authority would have revoked nor could Southampton or West Brom for that matter.
And I know you worked closely with the Dutch Super Hoops and Neil Rowlands as well when you travelled out there to organise the live screening of that PSV game as well.
Yeah, Neil, they were great. I mean, everybody involved with getting out there and the people I met were all fantastic. I'd love to tell you, what a great game that was, but I have to be honest, I didn't see a whole lot of it on the screen. I was introduced to a beer that was about 13.5%, and had the worst headache I've ever had in my life out there the next morning. But I have to say, when I went out there, I was kind of dreading it because I thought I better get the Kevlar vest on underneath. But the people out there were great. We had a good time. It was great just being able to chat amongst the fans and just having a good exchange of ideas and just being able to not having to worry about what's going on in the match day here because I'm in a pub somewhere watching it and somebody else is having to worry about the operational stuff and just having a chance to have a beer and have a chat with football fans.